You know what we should do? We should instead use this explanation as the intro.
No.
Or are we going too far deep into the rabbit hole?
We're going far too deep into the rabbit hole. Or we could have like a portion of our...
Which is a shame because the rabbit hole thing would be a perfect segue into this movie.
Okay, additionally, if we want to go even deeper into the rabbit hole, we could have a portion of our conversation followed by me suggesting that we should have that conversation, followed by you suggesting the explanation, followed by this, straight into...
So welcome to episode 7 of Stuck in the Middle with You, a podcast where two guys take a look at a critically divisive film and see on what side of the consensus they fall on. My name is Derek Gane, and currently shopping for clothing on the other line. In sunny Miami, Florida, is my friend and fellow podcaster Juan Barkeen. Say hi, Juan.
Hey.
This was a weird one this week.
Yes, it was. Almost as weird as the fact that I'm paying $6 for two tiny short shorts.
No plugs. Short shorts. Let us not talk about booty shorts. We got a movie to talk about.
All right, fair enough. But there is some booty in this movie. Non-sexualized children booty.
Oh my god, don't. Oh man. That is not the way I wanted to introduce this film.
That is not the way I wanted to introduce this film either. I wanted to introduce this film by immediately addressing the fact that it has an abundance of breastfeeding. Our film today, our super exciting, super breastfeedy film today is Louis Malle's Black Moon.
That is correct. 1975, and anointed by the Criterion Collection as being worthy of inclusion into the hallowed halls.
A lot of films are worthy of inclusion. They have over like 700 at this point. So.
Yeah, out of like the hundreds of thousands of films made over the course of history.
They don't always make perfect decisions.
Yeah, well, that's another discussion for another time.
Fair enough.
So what's this movie about, Juan? What is Black Moon by Louis Malle about?
It's an apocalyptic Alice in Wonderland.
Well, it's a post-apocalyptic Alice in Wonderland. The apocalypse has already happened because we're in the middle of World War III. This is not a war between nations. No, it's a war between genders.
Yes, it is. But I was just reading the Letterboxd tagline. Anyway, yes, it is a war between gender. It's basically like the cis wars, as Derek mentioned earlier.
Yeah, that's the way I put it because, the cis wars.
Yeah, more or less. One of the first scenes is like, you just have all of these women being rounded up and stood up in a line. This one male soldier walks up to one of them, kisses her, moves back, and then they are all slaughtered by gunshot.
Yeah, that's a really good image. And incidentally, I think it's kind of fascinating that we watched this movie right after seeing Jolene for the podcast, because that image is more potent and vibrant than anything that movie had to say about victimhood or systematic oppression.
Mm-hmm.
But the framing device of the gender war, the cis wars, only takes up about maybe 10 minutes.
More or less. I would say maybe 15 tops. It's
really there for flavor. So you have Katherine Harrison as our main character, Lily, who is driving a really sweet orange car through the post-apocalyptic wasteland.
I know, right? It's like the most beautiful thing in the world, and I wish I had one. After
witnessing the slaughter of the maybe half dozen women that are there, well, she gets found out. She's disguised as a man with a hat and a coat. And she gets found out, and she drives off. She survives gunfire, and she takes refuge into the European woods.
But wait, what's within these woods, you ask? There's a farm.
There's lots of wild shit in this.
Yeah, lots of wild shit. Lots of, like, animals that just happen to be there.
Yeah, wild in both the literal and figurative sense, because, yeah, there are animals. This movie makes a big deal of, like, the relationship between the natural order and humans. There's a lot of bugs, there's a lot of birds, there's a lot of farm animals.
Whenever she's laying on the grass, there's this one scene where she's just resting after running away from everything. And there's just an abundance of close-ups on the way these insects interact with, like, the world around her. And it's such a weird little, like, series of images.
It's not that weird when you consider that Louis Malle was already known and won an Oscar for a documentary that he made with Jacques Cousteau.
That is very true.
So it's not completely out there to think, Louis Malle is shooting nature.
True.
So he's working kind of in his own wheelhouse. And then a gaggle of naked children run down a hill with a giant hog.
Yeah.
And Uh, I mean, I've stated on this I've stated on this podcast I've stated on this podcast before how weird I am with naked children in movies.
As am I. I'm not particularly comfortable with it, especially in this case where, like, compared to last time where we had a very, like, a mature woman playing a young woman whose breasts were constantly exposed, we have this movie
around,
where, like, everyone is actually underage.
Here's the thing. Louis Malle in this movie often displays a gaggle of naked children, but I feel like that's sort of not a commentary, but that's like tied directly to like hippieism, communalism, going back to the land, man. Because you know what other movie had naked babies in it? Easy Rider. That's a weird comparison to make, but I feel like this is a weird
comparison to make. I'm not going to lie to you.
But I do think that both Easy Rider and this movie, Black Moon, are two movies that tried to grapple with the counterculture and with sort of changing mores.
I mean, they're very embedded in their period.
In their respective cultures, yes. But I think this one does it a lot more allegorically, whereas Easy Rider it's a road movie. I mean, it makes sense. It's done through the lens of youth culture. It makes sense that Easy Rider is done this way. And it makes sense that Black Moon is done this way because it's kind of like an out there, allegorical, coming of age, political, feminist, 17 million things at once, which is great about a lot of movies from the 1970s is that they're super messy, but they have a ton of ideas. They don't always connect. And I love that particular kind of movie. I was telling Juan before we went live that I think this is the most 1970s movie I've seen since I've seen The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Which is a pretty fair...
It's a pretty 70s movie.
Yeah. It's a very 70s movie that wishes it was... Not wishes it was, because it does kind of reach at, like, a certain level, but it wishes it was a little more coherent in its surrealism, if that makes any sense.
Pauline Kael wrote in a review of this that Louis Malle was a sane man trying to make a crazy man's movie, which I don't
Honestly, I mean, like, I wouldn't agree with that entirely.
I don't agree with that entirely either.
Understand where she's coming from.
I think that part of surrealism, the true blue essence of surrealism, is there's the subconscious is sort of put at a premium. Mal's approach here is more thought out. Like, everything in this movie nothing feels out of place, even if it's completely weird.
I mean, that's fair. It doesn't ever feel out of place, but it doesn't exactly. Some of it felt a little derivative of works of other surrealist filmmaker. At one point, like, I was looking at the credits for the film, and I saw that one of the writers was Luis Buñuel's daughter-in-law, which the moment I read that, I just said to myself, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Well, she's credited with additional dialogue, because this movie's not really dialogue heavy. There's a lot of grunts, there's a lot of onomatopoeias.
It's actually one of the things I really appreciated about the movie. I love what it does with, like, language on a general level. I think it's so interesting because it blends English, it has, there's English, there's French, there's the Tristan and Isolde singing piece. There's like just like weird mumbling, jumbled.
Yeah, there's a lot of like gobbledygook because
there's like animal noises, and even like one of my favorite things.
The
is
animals
just, like,
talk sometimes.
Yeah, there's that one moment where she just like where male Lily, I guess is what I'm going to refer to them as,
played by
just touching her. Yeah, and that's how they're communicating. And, like, my other favorite scene, just, like, within the spectrum of, like, how things communicate with each other, is when she's just walking through the garden, and then she just starts stomping on these flowers. And my subtitles at one point said, ethereal wailing.
Yeah, it just sounds like someone yelling through an old synthesizer.
Yeah,
like,
that's
essentially
what it is.
No, stop, no. I'm not doing it really well, but
I mean that's more or less what it is. Let's like.
I'd like to point out real quick that our male Lily is played by Warhol superstar Joe D'Alessandro.
Yup.
So Lily gets to the farmhouse. There is an elderly woman there played by Therese Giese, famous star of German stage and screen. Worked with Bertolt Brecht. And she spends a lot of the movie just kind of babbling and being bedridden.
More or less. And communicating to an unknown
rat.
presence.
And a
No,
giant rat.
no. Not just the giant rat, but also the radio, the two-way radio.
Yeah, I like that we're just smoothing over the giant rat that talks.
I mean, listen, like, we can get to the talking animal soon.
Okay. So let me ask you this question, Juan.
Mm-hmm.
What does Therese Gise's character represent?
Listen.
No, I'm not saying you have an answer. I'm not even saying I have the answer. I just want to know what you think.
Honestly, I'm not even going to attempt to make a logical assumption on what she represents because I just don't know.
I'm going to take a crack at it then.
Okay, go for it.
I think Therese Giese represents first-wave feminism. Here's why.
Go on, tell me more.
Let me have a crack at this. She's in bed. She's bedridden. In comes Catherine Harrison.
Uh-huh.
And she comes in. She's making fun of the fact that she's blonde, blue-eyed. She literally says, "Oh, she's got no bosom," right? Just taking pot shots at her. And I think that in a way, the Lily character represents second-wave feminism. You know, it's women's lib. This was made in 1975.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she represents in her own kind of weird allegorical Louis Malle filtered away second wave feminism, like the women's lib movement of the 60s and 70s. At the end of the movie, she ends up taking the mantle. She literally sleeps in the same bed. She takes position where she once was. This is the new standard. This is how we move forward. I don't think that it's a coincidence that Brother Lily and Sister Lily leave the movie in fisticuffs and go basically join the war. They go out into the shit, basically. They leave the estate. Which is basically a utopian ideal for second wave feminism, communal living, oneness with nature, etc., etc. So that's what I think. That's my core of the film. That's what I think the movie is about. In the general sense, it's about societal change regarding gender stuff in the 1970s.
I mean, it certainly makes sense considering, again, the first scene and the scene that followed that a little later when she finally reaches somewhere in the middle of the forest and she sees all of these women essentially like beating a man to death.
Do we ever see that it's a man?
No, not necessarily, but it's assumed, I feel.
Like it's the movie clearly is coded that long hair is women, like when the movie has started.
Yeah.
Like all the dude soldiers have the close cropped hair, and all the women they shoot have long hair.
True.
So if the dude had short hair, it was probably coded dude. So, but yes, keep going.
But I feel like that makes sense, especially with where the film is going in this sort of post-apocalyptic gender war universe. I mean, I feel like the scenes between Lily and Old Woman are sort of padded with surrealist imagery tossed into it for the sake of just kind of being a little stranger than it necessarily needed to be. But no, I would agree with your interpretation of the movie, or at least of their relationship.
I think the sort of surrealist elements are a means to an end. Like we had sort of hinted at earlier, this movie is a bit more thought out than what we assume a surrealist film would be, because it has a plot, it has characters, it has like basic continuity. So
I don't feel like that's necessarily true. I don't think it's as well thought out as you're giving it credit for compared to some other surrealist films, because I feel like surrealist films are often enough very well thought out, actually.
I think the imagery is more thought out, but I think the way that all the imagery interlocks in this film is more thought out than people give it credit for.
Okay, that's fair. I'll disagree with you, but it's a fair point.
I think to get to the core of this movie, there's a lot more digging and unpacking that you have to do in terms of cultural reference, like what a black moon is. That's not a random title, or what a unicorn represents in mythology, or why use Wagner in this. It's a very sort of culturally dense film, historically dense, and I can't even begin to unpack it. It's kind of like, this is going to be a really weird comparison to make, but this is kind of like an old school PC adventure game where unless you are like really in tune with the person who created it, you're going to have a hell of a hard time getting through it. But if you can follow the leaps of logic from A to B to Z to Q to 4, you're good.
That's fair.
And I was on board. I mean, I'm not saying that I got everything, but I think I got enough to appreciate the film.
I appreciate it.
Like, unless the only way I could probably do more is like to get a degree in classics.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm going to do that.
I'm not either. But I do think one of the biggest themes running through, which ties directly into the sort of Alice in Wonderland comparison point, is the loss of innocence or tainted innocence, or just, I don't know, like it's a fucked up coming of age narrative to a certain extent.
Oh no, it definitely is. It's basically a girl, in this case, she's in the middle of a literal culture war, and she goes from the beginning being someone who's like on the fringes of it, who's just trying to get through it, like a passive observer type, into an active participant, and in kind of if you follow my leap of logic from what I explained earlier, into a vital part of that same conflict.
Yeah.
It's sort of like realizing what your stature is in the world and what that means in terms of associations, in terms of potential dangers, in terms of where your social standing is, how you sort of own that and combat that.
Mm-hmm.
This movie was shot by Sven Nykvist, who's best known for his work with Ingmar Bergman, which incidentally gives this movie a kind of twisted Bergman-ness.
It really does, but
it looks like this movie was shot just constantly on cloudy days.
It might as well have been.
But it's kind of a dark
fitting.
movie. It's fitting.
Exactly.
It's definitely
fitting. Fitting for not just like the entire atmosphere of the film isn't exactly supposed to be light, but a lot of the surrealist imagery is very reflective of like that journey of loss of innocence. Even like the children frolicking, Lily always feels kind of like at a distance from like these like tiny children just like running around, and like I guess they're to a certain extent representative of what was once there, what was once like happy innocence. And free, total innocence. There's this one scene where they just start like attacking her and just sort of overtaking her, and she's struggling so desperately against this. And like the film doesn't attempt to make any subtle, like it doesn't try to be subtle whatsoever about the fact that it's about the loss of innocence.
It's not subtle, but the movie itself is elliptical about it, so I'm willing to forgive bluntness if there's plenty of holes that are already pre-poked.
That's fair. Even in some of the dialogue, when she sees the unicorn, and she finally, long after she sees the unicorn for the first time, but she finally gets to interact with it, she starts speaking to it, and she says, "I don't mean to be rude, but you're not very graceful. In my books, unicorns are slim and white." And the unicorn just kind of like goes like, the most beautiful things in the world are the most useless. It's so different from what we usually get from like the unicorn symbolism. Like you look at something like, say, like Legend. Exactly. You have this throwbacks. You have this perfect figure that's like untouchable, unattainable, like beautiful, white, majestic. And then here you just have like this fat horse.
Basically a mule with a with a horn.
Exactly. And it just sits in the corner and like does next to nothing.
It carries itself about like a surly worker, like a surly clerk. It's like, you come into my house and tell me that I look like shit, and you're giving me shit because I tell you you're rude about it. Well, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. I'm gonna leave for 2 centuries. Good fucking luck. Well, see, unicorns in particular are one of the easier symbols to decode in the film because, according to Wikipedia, in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, unicorns were commonly described as an extremely wild woodland creature, a symbol of purity and grace, which can only be captured by a virgin.
Hooray.
So here we have our unicorn, who's kind of a mutt unicorn. And was there ever any innocence to begin with? Does it really matter? Is the concept of innocence just a fabrication? Just a construct? Maybe. This movie doesn't tell us bald-faced because it doesn't tell us anything bald-faced.
I mean, I'm actually curious
we just kind of have to take our guesses.
Yeah, I'm actually curious about how, like, it can only be caught by a virgin. I'm curious about how that plays in of, like, this young woman was technically able to, like, to come up to it, to talk with it, to do things with it, and yet every other time when she's in the presence of this old woman, she can only see it from a distance, and the old woman seems very, like, hell-bent on getting her not to interact with
Well, you know
unicorn.
What this movie is as well. It's not just a coming-of-age tale. It's a, oh shit, I am a sexual being I have to grapple with this kind of
That
story.
it absolutely is. The snake in particular crawling up her leg at one point.
Again, not a super subtle image, but given the fact that this movie is kind of elliptical, I'm willing to let it slide.
Yeah.
I'm only against it or more sort of annoyed by it when it spells it out for me in capital letters like a certain other film we covered 2 weeks ago.
Listen, we're not going to talk about Jolene today. That was last week. 2 weeks ago. We're done with that.
Yep.
I do want to talk about another comparison that I that popped up in my head that sort of relates to the whole, I guess, Alice in Wonderland, sort of like the magical realism of it all.
Lay it on.
Which it first came to me in this one scene where she's just running through the forest from like the right of the screen to the left, and it reminded me so distinctly of an animated style that is very, very much Miyazaki-like.
Yeah, you can draw. Yeah, like me and Juan were talking about this off mic, and yeah, you could pretty much draw a pretty straight line between Black Moon and Princess Mononoke.
And to some extent, I think Spirited Away as well. Just the general I guess the young woman's journey, a lot of like gender discussion, the sort of relationship between nature and humanity, the war. There's a lot of things that you could like draw a very, very straight line between the two of them.
Just saying, it wouldn't surprise me if Hayao Miyazaki caught this movie in the 70s and went, all right.
I'm pretty positive he did. And just the focus of this like young woman with such like what could be a vivid imagination or what could actually be happening around her in this very like weird magical realism.
Yeah, she either has a really overactive imagination or she's fucking Snow White.
Which is exactly what you could say about Spirited Away to a certain extent.
This is kind of a fucked up Snow White story, isn't it? Except
a little bit.
Except you've got the Wicked Queen living upstairs and giving you shit for your hair. And the
Wicked Queen that you become.
Oh my god, shit. And and the seven dwarves are actually just two very androgynous looking, possibly incestuous people.
Yeah, more or less.
And there's a gaggle of naked children being deployed every now and again.
Yeah. And they also sing Tristan and Isolde when they have clothes on.
There's one sequence in particular, which I think is mine and Juan's favorite sequence in the film, where all the children sort of put on clothes. Joe D'Alessandro and Sister Lily like make each other up, and they play
the love duet from Tristan and Isolde.
Yeah, and it's really intense. It's really good filmmaking. It's really striking.
It really is.
They're indoors, but there's like wind and leaves blowing everywhere, and all the kids have clothes and then disappear, and everything is like dubbed, so it's super fakey looking, but it makes it more intense in a really weird way.
Okay, the dubbing, I want to talk about that, like, to a certain extent, just like trailing back on the way like dialogue and the constant shifting of communication within the film's universe.
Yeah.
Like, some of it was like you could tell she was just speaking English and her mouth was moving perfectly along with the English, and some of it was just English words were coming out, but they would have purposely a completely other dialogue being spoken at the time of filming. Because
there's two different versions of this film. There's the English version and there's the French version, and the actress was German. So I'm not sure what the shooting script looked like, but
I mean, I assume they did it purposely just for the sake of like making either version completely and totally like jarring.
Well, they certainly
just to
succeeded.
Add to the surrealist beats, obviously. But yeah, they did succeed.
We got this far without talking about the underage nudity.
I mean, I feel like we mentioned it in passing. One of the most uncomfortable things of the film is the fact that Catherine Harrison pretty much just like bares her chest at the end of the movie and starts prepping herself for the sake of breastfeeding a unicorn.
Well, she already breastfeeded the old lady, which was slightly more disturbing.
Did. No, frankly, both of them are very disturbing in my book.
Oh man, this is my comeuppance for giving Jessica Chastain shit last time.
Yep. You get a movie with like an abundance
See, it's still not tastefully shot or anything. It's kind of tastefully shot, but it's not like
The
sexual.
thing is, the whole film is like sort of tastefully shot, but like
Yeah, I mean, you've got Louis Malle behind the camera, and you got Sven Nykvist lensing, so it's bound to look sort of good on purpose. But I at least tell myself that it wasn't male gazy.
It's true. It wasn't.
There wasn't any time where the camera was like boing, wow, 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 which would have made me very uncomfortable and would have been highly appropriate.
Can we save you doing that as a sound effect that I can just press whenever I so goddamn please?
Wait, me going boing, wow, wow, wow.
Yes.
No. Although someone out there probably will. One final thing about this movie is that it's sexually charged without being explicit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Even with the chest bearing and everything, it's sexually charged. This is, after all, a young woman's sexual discovery, but it's not like explicit. It's not like gross. It's not inappropriate.
Metaphors.
The metaphors, that'll save your ass.
It's true, honestly. Like,
that's like the worst sales pitch ever. Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Derek Godine for metaphors. Do you need to say something and not really say it? How about a metaphor?
oh my god, get out! I'm done with you today.
If you're not interested in metaphors, I got similes.
Okay, no.
No?
This is like that one time where I hated you.
You mean
which is every
other
time. Yeah.
Alright, so Fresh or Rotten on Louis Malle's Black Moon.
I'll give it a fresh. I think it's a very interesting watch that I could actually potentially do with a rewatch sometime in the near future. Not in the near future, rather, in a very long time when I'm in the mood to watch something sort of mind-boggling.
I'm a big fan of just messy allegorical movies that have more ideas than they do sense or coherence. And this was kind of a coherent version of one of those movies. So I was on board with it. It still has its kind of slow parts. Not everything gels, but I admire the ambition. So, no, I love sort of kitchen sink head movies from the 1970s. This is definitely one of them, so I'm going to give it a fresh. So we agree.
Another agreement. We always agree on your movies, except, like, most of the time they're fresh, but one time it was rotten.
Yeah, well, they can't all be winners.
Yeah, I guess.
You have to learn to live with defeat, man.
Yeah,
You have to learn to live with losing. Sometimes you lose, loser.
Whatever. Shut up. I hate you. I don't care if we don't agree on my movies. They're more fun.
I don't know about that. It depends. You pick your movies. Like, I pick my movies because, what could we see that's different or weird or whatever. You pick your movies to make me fucking squirm.
Not always. Next week's I'm not. Or next 2 weeks I'm not.
Let's keep that on the down low for now. Right now we're going to do recommendations.
Yes.
So Juan, what are you recommending?
My recommendation for this week is another film by Louis Malle, which is one of his very, 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 very early films, and the first one of his film.
I think it's his earliest.
Yes, actually, I think it is. You're right.
It's his first movie.
Is it his first?
I think it's his debut movie. It's a hell of a debut movie.
Now I need to check. It was actually the first film of his that I saw because I thought it would be something that I would love. It's a black and white film. It is his first feature-length fiction film starring Jean Moreau. It has a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful score by Miles Davis, which is basically the reason that I wanted to watch it in the first place because, sad jazz is essentially...
It's a core part of the Juan aesthetic.
It really is. The film is Elevator to the Gallows, which is also conveniently on the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah, it is. It's a great movie. I'm pretty sure Derek and I saw that together. Didn't we watch that in like one of my old streams?
Yeah, that was during one of the old-timey live streamings. That was a group screening.
Back in the day.
Those were good times.
Yeah, they were.
Shouts out to everyone who was listening to this that was there when we were doing those.
Long, long time ago. Anyway, that's my recommendation. How about you?
You know what? I was going to go with My Dinner with Andre, but I'm not.
Uh-huh.
I am going to go with a movie that is also in the Criterion Collection, but I was not directed by Louis Malle, but it was directed by a dude called Paul Morrissey. And those of you who know that name also know that he was the guy who directed all those Andy Warhol movies.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie in particular, amongst many others, also stars Brother Lily, Joe D'Alessandro. But it also stars one of my favorite character actors, Udo Kier. The movie in question
I already know what movie you're picking.
is Flesh for Frankenstein.
Yup.
If you're in tune to this particular kind of sick joke, because this movie is kind of a sick joke.
It really is, honestly. I remember, I saw it on in the theater one year for Halloween.
It's really fun, though. It is
really fun.
It's kind of a charmingly sloppy.
It's trashy.
It's really trashy in that Warholian way. But Udo Kier gives it his all. He's an old pro. Joe D'Alessandro is appropriately disaffected in the film. And it's pretty gnarly. It's pretty graphic, too, in parts. In parts. But I haven't seen Blood for Dracula yet. I'm going to rectify that soon. But Flesh for Frankenstein. Check that shit out.
Yes, you absolutely should.
So, Juan, this next week is your pick. What do you got for me? What do you got for us?
You mean in 2 weeks? It's my
That's right.
pick. And I'm gonna have a fun one that we can just have like a kind of mindless discussion about.
All right.
Because I feel like we've had these very, very deep episodes lately.
I try to keep them under 40 minutes.
I know, but I mean, there's been a lot of heavy things to talk about between the last 2 episodes.
Rape, sexual abuse.
Exactly. Sexual coming of age, war, etc., etc. The roles of women in film.
Shitting yourself in Mexico.
Yeah. Well, that one was like long ago. That was like those were the fun days. Those were before computer.
Then we matured, and now we're going into this was our quarter life crisis. What do we got? What kind of mindless shit are we going to do to stave off the fact that we're about to turn 30?
We are going to watch a Roland Emmerich film.
Aha. Okay.
Because why not? It's Roland Emmerich.
If you want trashy, awesome spectacle, he's your man.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The only film of his that has a 50, while many of them are in the 40s and 60, my choice is the Channing Tatum and Jamie Foxx starring White House Down.
Shit. All right. Okay. Oh, man. Yeah, that one of the 2 raid on the White House movies that came out in 2013. And by all accounts, the better one.
Or so they say.
We will see. So Juan and I run a website, Dim the House Lights, which you can find at dimthehouselights.com. That's where we put most of our long-form film criticism. We also have 3 other writers on staff, Michelle Arf, Chris Mello, and Ross Burks. I also write occasionally for Sound on Sight. Juan also writes occasionally for the Miami New Times and Yeah Magazine. We're both on Twitter. I'm at Derek_G. And Juan is at Woah, W-O-A-H, it's Juanito, all together. We're also both on Letterboxd. I'm at Derek_G there as well. And Juan is also there at Woah, it's Juanito. If you're interested in listening to this podcast's old episodes, this is number 7. We've got 6 other ones that you should check out. You can find us on iTunes. Just search for Stuck in the Middle with You podcast. You're bound to find us. There's not a ton of podcasts that share our name. And while you're there, leave us a review, give us a rating, give us some feedback. We can't make the show better if we don't know what we're doing wrong.
Okay, if you'd like to find our podcast's website, you can feel free to visit sitmwypodcast.tumblr.com.
Yeah, well, the website has links to everything we've already mentioned, and has the direct links to the episodes if you're not into the whole iTunes thing. There's a link to an RSS feed. There's a link to the raw files. You know, we like to give the people options. So I think that covers everything. That was Black Moon. That's the episode, and see you in 2 weeks.
Hooray.